Hello and welcome to Diminishing Returns. A really, really exciting episode this week, I think, because I think this is a kind of fan favourite thing we've been teasing doing since we started the show, and it's certainly something that our listeners have been asking for and want. And joining myself, Sol, and Alan, as usual.
Hello.
Hello, Alan. We have a really, really exciting guest this week for Space Jam. We have Chris Antista, who I am.
Hey,
yeah, hey Chris. I'm a big fan of Chris, mostly through Laser Time, which is an excellent podcast. I highly recommend it. It's been an influence on this show. It's where I learnt about the likes of Windy City Heat and the antics of Norm Macdonald.
Oh yeah, every week we pick a, well, when the show posts every week, every show's a different theme, and I have something geared up for Space Jam. Maybe you or the listeners can figure it out by the time we get through the episode. But yeah, Laser Time 30 2010, where we go 30 20 and 10 years back through movie, music, and video game releases and video game apocalypse and end of plugs. I won't even plug my Patreon, patreon.com/ never mind. But I'm excited to talk about Space Jam because, you know, I watched it again and I flip flop on it all the time. I love it. I hate it. I love it. I hate it. I love it. I hate it.
I'm exactly the same. I was 7 years old, I think, when this came out in the UK. It came out in 1997 here. There was a time in my life when this was my favourite film of all time.
That's impossible.
But I was 7. I didn't know. I'd only seen about 5 films, you know.
No, and I guess at the time this came out, it was very easy to watch like 3 hours of Looney Tunes every day.
Yeah.
It was, at least in America, there was syndicated stuff you could see on over-the-air local stations. There was Cartoon Network, they were on TNT. And now they're just sort of confined. I think HBO Max is where they all live now. And it just bums me out to think like, yeah, if your parents don't have $15 a month, you're never going to see the Looney Tunes.
Or if you live in the UK, we don't have HBO Max here. They refuse to let us have it. I know. It's awful. They've got some weird deal with Rupert Murdoch and his empire, and all
That's right.
He's releasing all of the Warner Brothers stuff over here in weird ways.
Over like Sky or something.
Yeah, and we've not got the new Looney Tunes shorts. I'm really upset about it. We've still not got Animaniacs. That's, you know.
I find very interesting. You guys kind of the place that Space Jam seems to hold in a collective psyche of this kind of children's nostalgia cult thing, because I watched it this morning and I'm pretty sure I've never seen it before.
But yeah, Alan
I thought I was going to watch it and recognize things, and I didn't.
Yeah, well, Alan, you will have been 13, I think, when it came out. If I was
12, I
7?
guess. Yeah.
So you were probably maybe a bit old for it. Maybe not.
I was sadly 16 when it came out, and I have so many good things to say about the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
If you don't know me, I love old school animation. I collect it. Sad to think that's sort of going away just because the remastering process just isn't worth it. And when you see like how they try and stream it, like they put the Looney Tunes into like seasons, as in like per year, and it makes it really difficult to find what you're looking for. As do the terrible punny titles of Bugs Bunny movies or cartoons that always use the word hair. Like even I don't know the names of the cartoons I like. It's great. And just to start off on my love-hate relationship with Space Jam, I saw it in theaters and I didn't like it. I was very excited and because I'm a big Looney Tunes fan, but then I came away with what I always say about it. It's not a Looney Tunes movie. It's a Michael Jordan movie featuring the Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
well,
he is the star, and he's a terrible actor.
Well, I definitely took that away from it as well. How little kind of cartoon action we got, and but honestly, I've got no great love for Looney Tunes either. Like, not that I dislike it, but it's just not something I ever watched. I don't, I recognize all the characters, but I couldn't name them all. I couldn't really go, oh yeah, from that one I like that.
That's Pete Puma. Who could forget? Who could forget? I'm obsessed. The new Space Jam, as if you've seen the trailer, the people watching the jam are like the fucking Flintstones and Iron Giant, and Alex from
baffling.
Clockwork Orange is seemingly in there.
It's so weird.
But the background characters in this Space Jam, many of you may not have seen this on your larger sets or in theaters, but they don't have a deep bench to choose from. So it is this awesome, terrible menagerie of lesser Looney Tunes in the background. It's ridiculous. Mark Anthony, the dog. Yeah, Eddie. Hello. Cool Cat, Muggsy, and like all these 1 to 2 cartoon starring characters with no lines in the stands. I love it. Once I became a snottier Looney Tunes fan, like I deeply resented Space Jam. But then recently I saw it in theaters with a crowd, and a crowd of people who loved it. And that's always a great way to experience movies. And I had a great time because one of the things I thought I hated about it was that it is a Michael Jordan movie, but I stopped liking sports around the time Space Jam came out. But my recent rewatch, like last year, I realized like, no, but I was very much into the Michael Jordan thing. That was an incredible phenomenon. And now that I've watched, I don't like sports now, but I love sports documentaries. And I know a lot of people have watched The Last Dance on Netflix about the Chicago, like unprecedented Chicago Bulls run, Michael Jordan being one of the best players ever. And I cannot believe that they made a Looney Tunes movie about the most fascinating point in his life. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you could watch this movie and not know, yeah, Michael Jordan at his height, MVP, winning championships, his dad died, and he's just like, I don't want to do basketball anymore. I want to play baseball because that's what my dad wanted me to do.
Wait, sorry, hang on. Is that a real thing that he did?
This is a real, and that's what makes the movie special to me now. I thought
it was a joke. I thought the film was being
this is
weird.
all like, and I was like, I always thought, the last time I watched it, like, how did they do this? It is such a timely movie, and the movie ends with him going back into basketball, which is what he did. Animated movies take like 2 years to make. I'm still pretty baffled as to how this timeline exists, and I didn't get enough time to dig a little deeper, but like, I think if we're being honest, if you watch the movie, anything that doesn't involve the Looney Tunes could have been shot like the week before. So all the stuff about the Chicago, him playing, there's a great documentary, 30 for 30 documentary called Jordan Rides the Bus. He quit basketball at his absolute height. So for him to like quit everything he's good at, he goes to play for the Chicago White Sox, which is a Major League Baseball team. It turns out he's not that good. So the biggest star in the world at this point, biggest athlete in the world, gets busted down to the minor leagues and is playing these tiny stadiums and traveling on the bus with the team. And this movie somehow takes place in that very real period.
I am genuinely flabbergasted. For the last, however many years since this film came out, I always assumed it's a funny joke. Like the best basketball player in the world retires to play baseball, and he's not as good at it.
No, it's a 2-year period in Jordan's life that is crystallized in Space Jam. It's hilarious. And so for that, I really appreciate Space Jam. And I also should say I need to appreciate it because I'm a big Looney Tunes fan. And part of this comes from a specific memory of being at my grandparents' house, and I'm sitting next to my dad and grandpa, and we're watching the Looney Tunes and all laughing at the same thing. Back in the day, these cartoons were made for everybody. That's why sometimes they get a little ribald, drunk, racist. They were made for current audiences of the 40s, but were packaged to kids for 5 generations. I think one of the longest running Saturday morning cartoon show was the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner show from, I think, about 1960 on American television, starting in prime time, but then going to Saturday morning. That show ran for 40, 50 years every day for kids over the air for free. But then that kind of went away. And then for the 90s, there was this fashion uptick with the Looney Tunes. If you've never seen the thugged out Looney Tunes dressed like Criss Cross, that's the early 90s. And then Michael Jordan comes along and does a series of Nike's commercials.
This could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
That's all, folks.
Well, that's my line.
Directed by Joe Pytka, who you may know as the director of Space Jam, his one and only feature film. Another reason I resented Space Jam a little bit, not to get off track, is because if you look at those commercials, the animation is stellar, way better than what you see in Space Jam. But it's also a commercial and has like 1 minute to do these extravagant things. But that's where this started. This is technically a movie spun off from commercials.
Yeah,
there's a lot of products in this movie to prove that. Michael Jordan brought everything. McDonald's, the NBA. Usually you don't get licensed teams, and they're like every team is represented here. I remember like 2 years ago, I'm walking through a fucking Walmart, and I see Looney Tunes cartoons on DVD, and they have new sleeves over them with the marquee "The Stars of Space Jam," and the amount of old man resentment that built up inside me. I'm like, you guys need to apologize for this, millennials. I'm like a millennial cuspy, but I have to give Space Jam credit because Warner Brothers did not do a good job of keeping these characters in the public eye. There's some of I think Bugs Bunny might be my favorite fictional character of all time.
I used to have this pegged, and I think I've said it on this podcast before, like as the weirdest film to ever make it through the studio system. It's so baffling at every level. But I didn't know it was based on a series of commercials until a couple of years ago, maybe, when I discovered it. And I don't know if that's because the ads didn't come to the UK or if I was just too young to be aware of them. But when I found that out,
were Jordans big in the UK? Did you have those shoes, Nike Air?
Well, this is the other problem. Well, outside of America, basketball doesn't really exist. So not only do we not really know about it, we don't know who Michael Jordan is. So all of this means nothing to us. Like, as far as I know, basketball is like an alien space sport that they invented for this film.
Yeah. I think it's really like America and China are like the only countries like super into basketball. I guess that would be a hindrance.
Yeah. Then I found out about the adverts, and it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. It's not the weirdest film ever, but I must say, I think when Karl Marx was, warning us about capitalism run amok, this movie is perhaps what he was talking about. This film is capitalism manifest. It's just everything and everything's selling
into
out.
Box office and merchandise, and that's I've wavered on that a little bit just because like I'll take anything as far as these Looney Tunes characters go. They have a great new show out, and none of my friends who love Looney Tunes have seen it, and no kids have seen it. So this is Space Jam is all we have to keep the legacy of these characters alive, and I'm very much behind that for that reason.
And to be fair, the old Looney Tunes shorts, the Looney Tunes were invented to sell Warner Brothers music records, weren't they? They were adverts for the old classic. That's why they're called Looney Tunes. It's and the pun of
Merry Melodies, Looney Tunes. Yeah. They were to go along with Disney's Silly Symphonies, which those were like musical-based cartoons, but Warner Brothers actually had a giant library of music that they owned, and kids my age it's just weird. We can hum stuff, and like, this is a very licensed song. This is a popular 1940 song that still costs money, and somebody's rocking my dreamboats, and like, I only know this because I heard Bugs Bunny sing it. And when you're a kid, you have no idea you're watching something that's 40 years old.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think this new Space Jam film will open with an R. Kelly song? Because that is what I really remember from this period. R. Kelly, I Believe I Can Fly, was like at #1 for about 3 months.
The Space Jam soundtrack was. I had the cassette tape. I don't know why, but I took the cassette tape into school one day, and the teacher let us play the Space Jam soundtrack while we were doing schoolwork. Hell yeah.
Students, this is the only recorded duet with Barry White and Chris Rock. It's called Basketball Jones.
It's an amazing soundtrack, and it was really upsetting because I spent all day, well, not all day, like 90 minutes while that soundtrack was on, waiting for the best track on the tape for me as a kid, which was the rap performed by Bugs Bunny, I believe called Buggin', at the very end of the tape. I think it was a secret hidden track.
Shh, let's be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
Right.
Yeah.
Clap your hands to the beat. Everybody just clap your hands to the beat. Clap your hands to the beat. All right, Fuzzface, let's see what you're made of.
Who got Bugs Bunny money? I give you some kind to get more carrots every time I rhyme. Can a mouse write this? Does he have long furry ears like this? Can he make hits like this? No, it's like Jordan at the plate. You're likely to miss.
And as soon as that one came on, the teacher turned it off and was like, okay, that's the end of the tape. I was furious. No, but yeah, there's a rap performed by, I think it's Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny. So Billy West and Billy West.
Billy West's debut as Bugs Bunny. He's nowhere close to my favorite Bugs Bunny, but Billy West is the greatest living voice actor we have.
100%.
And that he does Bugs Bunny so well. In addition to Ren, Stimpy, Fry, I could go on and on. Doug. He's such a great voice actor and does such a great job. And I remember him saying, like, yeah, I got paid $1 million to be Bugs Bunny in Space Jam. So that was pretty up there for a voice actor at the time.
Yeah, especially in the 90s. That's not bad.
But he didn't do it again. And if I don't say it, I'm just going to say it now. I don't think Space Jam is very funny, and I don't think the Looney Tunes. I have like meaningless quibbles. Like, I definitely don't like that they live in the center of the earth. That's really dumb. But like, I don't think they're very funny and very well utilized. And I stopped viewing this for your show and immediately jumped into Looney Tunes Back in Action, which is a much better film directed by Joe Dante, who is a genuine fan of the Looney Tunes. He sneaks Chuck Jones and Gremlins. He snuck the Looney Tunes and Gremlins opening. The Looney Tunes open Gremlins too. That's how much he loves them. And that movie is so funny and so good. And Billy West is not in that one, sadly. But I don't know why people who love Space Jam so much haven't jumped into Back in Action. It's a much better film.
You're right, though, because Space Jam isn't a particularly funny movie.
No.
I think Bill Murray, who inexplicably is in this movie as himself, I think every moment with him is pure gold, as you would expect from Bill Murray. But it amounts to about 3 minutes.
I think he might have done commercials for the NBA.
Right.
And that might be how his involvement. And it seems like for him, that was probably a huge payday, and it really looks like he worked 2-3 days on it.
It looks not only like he worked 2 or 3 days on it, but like they gave him a script and he went, I'm just gonna do what I feel like. I'm just gonna riff something.
It's a good shot. Yeah, I know. Mike, I gotta ask you something. The NBA has to face reality. What's happening to these players is serious. They're gonna need new players with talent, guys who are skilled but never really thought about a professional career before. You think I got a shot? Come on, really.
No.
Don't kid me.
Listen, it's a man's game. And you can't play.
What if I tried really hard?
Can you keep it down? I'm trying to hit this ball.
His most canned lines that you'll hear are the ones when he's playing basketball, because those are the things that have to be scripted so far in advance. That Bill Murray's the funniest part of the movie bums me out.
Well, I do think, in this kind of film, this sort of sub-earnest comedy, that someone like Wayne Knight is absolutely perfect. He's got the right energy for it. He's got a bit of knockabout comedy about him. So I think he does a really nice job as well. Let's talk about Michael Jordan a little bit. I actually think he's doing a bang-up job here for someone who is A, not an actor, and B, acting to nothing. I think he's doing a damn fine job.
He's not only not a professional actor, he is doing the hardest acting work most people will ever do. So I say he's bad in it, but it's like most people would be bad at this.
Yeah.
There's a reason Who Framed Roger Rabbit, if you can't tell by everything I've said, is the greatest movie ever made. And they purposely spend very little time bringing Bob Hoskins into Toontown because it's difficult to make that look convincing, and it would be incredibly difficult to shoot. It's like 10 minutes of this movie that is famous for combining live action and animation. Bringing a live action character into animation is incredibly difficult. And judging from the trailer, look at the trailers of the new Space Jam, they just turn LeBron animated to avoid those issues.
Yeah, so right at the beginning here, we have a little intro to set up Michael Jordan, and then we have this really long intro thing of just like highlights of Michael Jordan playing basketball. But I was thinking, these are the longest opening credits I've ever seen. Like, what's going on? And then I looked at the time, and the film is barely 80 minutes. And I was like, okay,
half of the film is a basketball match. Like,
I should say it's sort of the death of Warner Brothers animated division. I find it ironic that Iron Giant is in Space Jam and like given this like star treatment in the Space Jam 2 trailer, whereas like Warner Brothers completely shit on that film, and most of the staff of that film were forced to move over and make this movie because
really?
Yes, like that's what because they didn't make I don't know that they made another attempt at a live action movie after Iron Giant bombed as big as it did, but now it's a modern classic. But yeah, most of the team that worked on that had to be moved over to make this glorified commercial.
The concept here, so Earth is quote unquote real, the Looney Tunes live in the center of the Earth in Toonland, and that's animated.
Yes.
But outer space is also animated.
Yes. And they need new theme park attractions.
Yeah.
Like, you do know there are other animated characters that have theme park attractions you could go steal. Not the half-ass ones like at Six Flags. But,
but I think
I like the Looney Tunes, but come on, your first choice would be going and getting Mickey and Friends.
Well, in this universe, the Looney Tunes apparently broadcast each of their cartoons live on TV every day. So I don't know. Maybe
the only thing I've ever seen that feels like it's animated live is the Care Bears. It seems like nobody did a second pass at the script. It's awful. It makes no sense. One of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You can't improvise animation. That doesn't work.
Yeah, they decide they need to kidnap the Looney Tunes, who then tell the aliens that they have a right to fair trial through competition.
It is one of the dumbest stories ever. It's one of the dumbest plots. Maybe not plots, but it's one of the stupidest stories ever. And it's nice that you don't question it that much because, like, yeah, I just want to see the Looney Tunes do stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
And the structure of the film is so weak because, you get to this point where it's like, okay, we've got to go up against the bad guys, blah, blah, blah. And then you would have some kind of fail where you kind of, you go up against a different team and you lose and then you have to go away and train and you have a montage and all this. But no, we go straight into the big game. The big conclusion starts about 35 minutes in. And then we have, like, the halftime is when they have their big kind of reveal and they think they're taking steroids and so they get better.
Yeah, it seems like such a TV movie, but given this major budget, and again, I think that's only because of Michael Jordan. Did you know there is a Space Jam movie premiering on Cartoon Network in like a week to promote the Space Jam 2? It's Teen Titans meet Space Jam. I just found out.
Wow, okay.
I just found out about it researching this. I've heard nothing about it, and I like the Teen Titans. To a point, Cartoon Network, to a point.
Michael Jordan gets kidnapped by the Looney Tunes to help them train to be basketball players. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then Wayne Knight has to try and find him.
Yeah. And he digs a hole
police or anything like that.
down to Toontown, and the aliens steal famous basketball players' talent, which they can apparently do.
Yeah.
Why do they live underground? Why don't they just live in Burbank? Why do this?
Yeah, well, if they're broadcasting live on TV, it's obviously a lucrative thing they've got going on. They're obviously big stars. Michael Jordan knows who they are.
Well, how come if they live in the center of the Earth, they have like a sky and sunlight and things like that?
Yes, and a hell of a broadcast satellite. I find it difficult to believe you can't find Looney Tunes on TV anymore if it's getting all the way out into space.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you about this because obviously the kind of defining factor of Space Jam, the thing that makes it rise above, is that you have real people interacting with the cartoons, right? Which is different to a normal knockabout kind of kids comedy. So my only saving grace with this film is that I think that works really well, and I think even 20 odd years on, it still holds up. But I am not an animation expert by any means. So usually I would go to Sol for this because he's my resident animation expert. Is that just my kind of naive eye, or is this kind of really the business?
No. I mean, well, you are sort of witnessing the end of theatrical 2D animation anyway. This is as good as it gets. It's as good as it looks. From Who Framed Roger Rabbit to here, almost every studio is done with traditionally hand-drawn animation at this point. And again, one of the reasons I resent this being a Michael Jordan movie, the entire end is kind of slowed down by his presence because he's a human and he can't move as fast as the camera would in a normal cartoon. Yeah. So you can't do as many cartoon things because he's slowing everything down by being a stupid human.
Well, that's his character arc, unless I've missed something, like the whole journey his character goes on is that he basically learns that cartoons can stretch their arms. Is that...
It is one of the dumbest crescendo moments in all theatrical films, and I love how like that looks stupid, regrettable, and aged, whereas the Looney Tunes don't. So when you try and stretch Jordan's arm, that looks absurd.
Yeah, it's that and Wayne Knight being pumped up like a balloon flying around the studio, the court. I must say that there's some very noticeably horrible dated animation in the crowd scenes in the basketball match at the end. You
can see the computer processor stuttering and like the frame rate, like it's trying its best to show all these characters, but it's too big a scene. I love how early computer animation, strangely not Toy Story, which is a year old Toy Story at this point.
Yeah.
Computer animation is a new thing in the medium of film.
Well, The Lion King was 2 years prior, and that used this for the stampede scene and so on. I guess it was a bit more simplistic in that it was basically the same model over and over and over again.
Yeah, but it looks like there's some video game technology behind the crowd scenes.
Yeah.
And again, they don't have enough Looney Tunes to populate these things, so you can just see the same characters over and over again on different sides. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but even then, like some of the sort of animation, because to be fair, they're not just still images; they are like animated. But it's maybe 3 frames looped round.
Yes,
some of them are looped very badly. It's
it looks like something in the background like Jet Moto.
Yeah,
or some other such current game kids know. I don't know.
It's a very, very odd choice, but I think for the most part the effects and the animation are relatively decent here. I don't think it's as sophisticated or to as high a standard as, say, Roger Rabbit.
That's Richard Williams, man.
Yeah.
He did a lot of work on your side of the pond. He's one of the greatest animators ever.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you got, like, my favorite moment in Space Jam still, and I don't know why. I think because it got the biggest laugh, the biggest pop in theaters. Because most people weren't laughing at this movie. It's not very funny. and was when they shoot the basketball and then it just goes to Elmer Fudd and Yosemite Sam in Pulp Fiction outfits. Which did any of you get? Did you get that Soul as a kid? There's no way you would have got that reference. That movie's 2 years old.
As a kid, yeah, there's no way I knew what was going on. I think I got it as a kind of they're doing a grown-up movie that's a bit about bad criminal people.
It's such a gratuitous, egregious reference as well.
But that's it. So watching it now, it's like there's no relevance to anything. It hasn't dated particularly well because it was just that Pulp Fiction was obviously out at the time, a couple.
It hasn't, but I mean that is a tried and true Looney Tunes gag, a cultural reference. I have a podcast I'm working on that proves pretty unequivocally that the Looney Tunes are pretty much just Family Guy. You're looking at a bunch of parodies of commercials and other entertainment, and some of the catchphrases you think are Looney Tunes catchphrases they just stole because they're doing a parody, but because it's so old you don't know what they're referencing.
Well, isn't Bugs Bunny basically that? Isn't the carrot and What's Up Doc a reference to was it like James Cagney?
I have a lot of information on this. I have a lot of information on this, and I don't want to bore you with it, but it's one of those things I love because we have the luxury of going back to YouTube and when people want to make references, they can be very specific. But back in the day, people are just operating on a memory.
Yeah.
And they did sort of base Bugs Bunny on Clark Gable in the movie It Happened One Night. But only there's a scene where they get left behind by a bus and Clark and you realize because Clark Gable ate carrots and no they had to steal from a farm. And so in one scene Clark Gable is eating stolen carrots because they're left on the side of a road, and he's talking through it, and he does sound a lot like Bugs Bunny.
What are you eating?
Carrots?
Raw?
Mm-hmm. What?
Oh, no. Why didn't you get me something I could eat?
Oh, that's right. I forgot. The idea of offering a raw carrot to an Andrew. Hey, you don't think I'm going around panhandling for you, do you? You better have one of these. Best thing in the world for you, carrots.
I hate the hard things.
I wish you wouldn't talk so much. I would let a car get away.
And he calls one person Doc as a joke twice in that movie, and that ended up becoming 2 of the most defining characteristics of Bugs Bunny. It's less than 4 seconds of film. It became the basis for Bugs Bunny, and it was just their memory of this film they'd seen. I think 1940. Yeah, that doesn't seem right. A new film at the time.
Yeah. All the greats in animation, though, isn't it? Half the cast of The Simpsons and stuff are just the voice actors doing an impression.
Right. We did a laser time on that, like the basis for, and I love that because for good voice actors are nerdily parodying character actors that they love. Like, I love Billy West, like just blatantly like, I'm Larry from Three Stooges, Ren. He's just that. Krusty is based on Dan Castellaneta's local, like Rusty Nails, I think, the clown that would host his cartoon show. Love that. Edward G. Robinson is Chief Wiggum. Yeah. Sorry, I will get us off track with stuff like this.
Well, let me ask you, Chris. You probably know more about basketball than we do. So
everything I know about basketball is from Space Jam. I have no. And that one episode of Futurama. That's
Space Jam and Minute Ball. That's all we know.
I was wondering why Minute Ball wasn't in this film after you taught me about it recently, Alan. But...
Minute Ball.
Yeah.
Muggsy Bogues is in this film, who is like the counterpoint to Minute Ball because he was the shortest basketball player.
Yes, he was one of the shortest basketball players, and for some reason developed this like comedic shorthand with Charles Barkley. And if we're putting things I like about Space Jam, the older I get, like, man, I love Charles Barkley appearing in stuff. He tries, but he can't do very well, which makes it funny. and you can see that he's kind of pissed doing stuff. And I just really like Charles Barkley. And when he hosted SNL, Muggsy Bogues made an appearance there too, because Charles Barkley, I believe, had the reputation as kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of a thug, like a guy who talked a lot of shit. Like I remember I'd never seen curse words so clearly being formed by someone. He would talk shit. He'd kind of run into people very hard. And then you had the adorable Muggsy Bogues, who was really quick, and they were sort of like, I don't know, like an Abbott and Costello of the NBA at the time. They did a lot of comedic appearances together.
It's like the Vinnie Jones of basketball, I guess.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. I know who that is. That's the Juggernaut, bitch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me ask you about the rules of basketball. If you, for example, smash someone to the ground, stamped on them, and set them on fire, would that be considered a technical foul?
You know, I'm guessing a free throw would need to occur at that point. But they don't really get into the rules of basketball. Who was the ref again? Was it Granny?
The little Martian.
Was it Marvin the Martian? Yeah.
Marvin the Martian.
Another of my favorites as a kid. Yeah, I loved Marvin the Martian.
Those cartoons are great.
So yeah, as well as Billy West in here, we have about half of the cast of Futurama doing voices. We've also got Maurice LaMarche. We've got Kath Soucie, Dan Castellaneta, as I mentioned, who's of course the Robot Devil, and we also have Frank Welker doing his usual animal noises. Probably is he Taz? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I believe he's Taz. You know who's Taz in Back in Action?
No.
Brendan Fraser. He made a point. He wanted to be Taz. So he
good for him.
Does a great job. Great job.
Yeah.
And I really love the sole original. It's been 7 years since Roger Rabbit, which Mel Blanc was alive to do the voices for. So now we're down to one original cast member. It's June Foray as Granny and Witch Hazel. And as I love pointing out, June Foray is the only person to play the same character in a Disney and Warner Brothers short, Witch Hazel. They look different, same name.
We've touched on the soundtrack, but I do want to just mention some of these songs. As you mentioned before, we have a cover of Basketball Jones on this film soundtrack performed by Barry White and Chris Rock.
Basketball Jones, I got a basketball Jones, I got a basketball Jones, ooh baby, ooh.
I mean, that is a thing of beauty that happened. Someone went, who has the highest pitched voice and the lowest pitched voice in the world? Let's get them on a song together.
Yeah.
And then it just plays over a montage in the film. Like, so you just hear Chris Rock going, "Hey, it's Barry White!" Like,
you cut it out, like it cuts out, like right when you hear Chris Rock start going.
But you can still hear him a little bit, just like
you hear him a
fading
little
down,
bit.
and then you just have Barry White just kind of going, "Yeah." Over the top of this montage of basketball players. It's very strange. And there's, of course, I Believe I Can Fly, which to this day I'm convinced is a ripoff of Believe by Stevie Wonder.
shattered dreams, worthless years. Here am I encased inside a hollow shell.
I can't seem to find anywhere confirming that it's like an intentional homage, but it has the same kind of note progression.
I don't remember this song at all. It has a Spin Doctors song featuring Biz Markie. This movie's insane. Jay-Z, Salt and Pepper, Coolio, Busta Rhymes, LL Cool J, Method Man.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And another thing of note, it introduced, I believe, the character of Lola Bunny.
Yes. Sorry, I can't believe we didn't get to that.
Yeah.
Well, of course, yes, feminist icon. Lola Bunny.
Well, I mean, they did kind of go all in on her. Like, she's still part of the Looney Tunes, I think. She was in that video game I mentioned on the Game Boy that I had as a kid. It was Bugs and Lola Bunny on the box.
Looney Tunes show, she was not a major character, but a recurring character voiced by Kristen Wiig.
Oh, right.
It was not a bad show. Wabbit was better, but this is the debut of Lola Bunny, and I think about the most dated thing about the movie is how much she is sexualized on purpose by the camera. It's something you would never do to a cartoon character in a kids movie today. And the Looney Tunes is filled with stuff like that, but for Space Jam, yeah, that's like the only like moment, like is how they fetishize Lola Bunny.
It did feel a bit old school, like Bugs Bunny, you know, his eyes turning into hearts. But I mean, they obviously undercut that by having her be able to hold her own and kind of command respect. And I guess that was a sort of 90s feminism.
Girl
really.
power,
That was as
isn't
good
it?
as it got. Look, we've created a female character because we didn't have any.
Well,
What
I
more do
mean,
you want,
to give
women?
them credit, they. My understanding is they acknowledged that there weren't really any female Looney Tunes of note. Unless...
There's almost no female representation. There was, again, not to bore everybody, we did a laser time about this too, the original stars that got overshadowed by newer stars. Sort of like how, before there was Mickey, there was Oswald. Ralph the dog was the Jim Henson's biggest character until Kermit came along. And before Bugs came along, Porky Pig has like 100 cartoons in black and white. And he had a girlfriend named Petunia. And Petunia is literally the only female Looney Tune character with a fucking name for decades. For decades, until Granny comes along. And boy, that's great representation. I'm thankful for Lola, because I think Lola's a very cool character and a really great design. Even the new one, you pervs on you see people complaining like, I can't even jerk off to this.
Yeah,
where's her chest?
Do you know about this sort of nun controversy that was whipped up recently? That basically
she's not hot enough in the new version.
Well, basically, someone got a picture of Lola Bunny off DeviantArt that had, the anatomy was different to how she actually appeared in the film. And then they posted it up comparing her to how she appears in the new film.
Oh, it wasn't even real?
No, it was fan art. Yeah, it was this really busty picture someone had drawn. But they posted it up as if it was like a still of her from the original film. And
people and idiots on Twitter, because Twitter gives the wrong message to people that all of your opinions are important and necessary and must be heard. So now we get to hear from cranky people who's like, ew, she's so gross. Like, look, man, you'd fuck that Lola Bunny. Go forward. What are you talking about? What is wrong with you? She just looks more natural and with more modern hips. And modern hips are good.
Yeah, and that's it. There are all these people like saying, "Oh, this is ridiculous. Feminism's gone mad. We're gonna boycott Space Jam 2 because the rabbit's not sexy enough."
If you go through the cartoon characters, I would fall in love with instantly. It was pretty much the male character with a bow on its head. It's enough for me. Yeah, I'll take Miss Pac-Man to prom.
Yeah. What about Bugs Bunny when he's dressed up as a woman?
Oh, just gorgeous, gorgeous. And still, like, I love that those scenes still feel okay when he's in a dress, but like I feel like I want to meet someone whose sexuality ends up really defined by that. I really do.
So I mean, yeah. So Space Jam.
Jam.
Is there anything else to say there? I think we've kind of touched on everything in the film. Really, it's not a lot in it. Well, there is a lot in it, but it's
No, there isn't.
Yeah, there is and there isn't.
The structure is weak, like I say. It's not even a good basic kind of kids film structure. And I assume that's just because they were trying to, keep up with the animation and it's just like, look, we can't put anything more in it because we can't animate it. But I thought, why not have a scene earlier on where a bit more like, let's have Wayne Knight and Michael Jordan doing something, and Wayne Knight, falls on a cake or something. It's not difficult, is it? You could just pad something out, a little 5-minute bit of slapstick. Yeah, it just felt like you could easily have chucked a couple extra moments in this and got it to 90 minutes.
Yeah. Look, as I say, there was a time when this was my favourite film of all time. I was 7. I didn't know any better. I should have done, because I had seen better films like The Lion King, but I didn't know any better. I loved the Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I still think there's no reason to be ashamed of that, though. It's such a different flavor than what was being presented by other animation, theatrical animation. Like it's silly, but like I'm glad it kept the Looney Tunes in the hearts and minds of another generation.
Yeah. And then, I think I came back to it at some point as a teenager probably and thought, oh God, what was I thinking? And then I watched it again last night, and I mean, look, I have a certain degree of nostalgia for it. And I mean, like I say, it's capitalism manifest, but I kind of respect that. I kind of respect that the balls to the wall lunacy of it. I wish it went further. Which, I suppose that's kind of what Back in Action was.
That's your movie, man.
Yeah, doing.
Movie's great.
But yeah, I don't hate it. So I'm going to jump into a rating here. We give our films a rating out of 10, Chris. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, which I think's very generous. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a what I would consider generous 5.
All right, I thought we were going to go harsher than that. Yeah, Chris.
I think in a movie that looked worse, it would get a much lower rating, because it is very stupid and isn't as funny as it should be. But I got to rate it now?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'd do a 6 as well. Maybe a 7. I don't know. Like I love that people love it. It's just not for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it doesn't outstay its welcome. It's that sort of, if you are just putting on.
Yeah, and it's
kid.
I'll watch it when I would never put it on in my own home, but like if it's screening somewhere, I'll definitely go see it.
Yeah.
It feels like my child. It feels like it's hard to see now, but it was sort of like it's everything I really liked when I was like 12 years old. Michael Jordan and Looney Tunes, and this new rap music that all the parents are complaining about. It's a really nice slice of the 90s, like almost.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do a show about this, but I don't know how to formulate it. It is weirdly one of the most perfect 90s movies. It just is, and it does crystallize a moment in time, even if it is based on something pretty crass.
It's that naivety of the 90s, I think, that, it's just, why not? It's a film about Michael Jordan and the Looney Tunes saving the world through basketball. With aliens? Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
With aliens and Charles Barkley.
Just generally, sports stars in films never quite caught on. I guess not enough of them are just any good at acting. Or
there's what's his name, Fred Williams,
O.J. Simpson,
and O.J. I love him as Nordberg. I'll never not. I always assumed, and I don't mean to cast aspersions on athletes. To star in a movie is like legitimate work, and you have to love doing it. And if you're a pro athlete and you retire, you can make so much more money by doing a lot less than trying to be an actor, and let alone a good actor. We all love Shaquille O'Neal and Blue Chips. Anyone? No one. No one on Diminishing Returns going to bat for the Nick Nolte movie Blue Chips. No. Yeah, not a lot of basketball players in films. Let's see how LeBron does. I don't know anything about LeBron, but he called the president a bum one time, and it made me laugh.
So the new film, it's LeBron James, who is, I guess, a basketball star now.
He's
is he still playing? Is he retired?
Isn't he? Is that...
Yeah, and I think someone had written more eloquently about that, but like we've called the Space Jam plot flimsy, but there is a lot of weirdness there, like Jordan's dad's death leading to him retiring from basketball, finding his love of basketball again. What's LeBron's story here? I left Cleveland for more money.
Well, the plot looks crazy from the trailer. Alan, have you seen the trailer for the?
Yeah, in the trailer, his kid gets kidnapped, so that's his motivation as a character.
And then
okay.
And he gets lost in like
the
apparently,
serververse.
I can't tell if it's supposed to be set in the same universe as the first film or not, because the Looney Tunes this time all live on a hard drive in like the big Warner Brothers computer, which is bizarre. It's not like they live in the center of the earth, which was also bizarre. But this new one just looks like a kind of Warner Brothers movie rather than
it is Warner Brothers Discovery Turner HBO crossover movie, because you get to see a Game of Thrones planet in the trailer. I'm like, really? Is this who we want the Looney Tunes interacting with?
Yeah,
okay,
I don't really know who it's for, because if I go and see Space Jam 2, I don't really want a load of other Warner Brothers stuff in the mix there. That's not why I'm there.
I was not surprised they were doing that in the trailer like most people, because I have had some of the characters spoiled for me, and I'm not even like I don't usually go looking for spoilers, but I got some major spoilers from some Warner Brothers characters you would not expect who are going to pop up in this movie, played by their original actors. That just, it seems shocking that this is going to happen. And I honestly can't, as much as I'm crapping, maybe you think I'm crapping on Space Jam, I am so excited for Space Jam 2. I cannot wait. But it's also, this is also like pandemic Stockholm syndrome, where we just weren't getting any movies for a while. You should have seen me excited for Scoob a year ago. Like, this Scoob is going to save us. It's going to come out on streaming. I'm going to pay $25 for it. Sight unseen. That movie is fucking terrible. It was really, really bad.
I was so upset by Scoob. I'm a big Scooby-Doo guy. Like, I've watched, I think, every appearance of those guys crossing over with every other show. They've been on Teen Titans, they've done everything, and I was all there. I was all in on Scooby-Doo and Blue Falcon. Like, they're doing
I am not a big Scooby-Doo fan, and I'm glad I wasn't, because boy would I have been disappointed that this movie is actually a launching pad for a Blue Falcon franchise.
When I say I'm a Scooby-Doo fan, I don't particularly like any of the Scooby-Doo stuff that I've seen. I've just got this weird compulsion to
they're great.
Watch it all.
I love how 70s they look.
Yeah.
Like that in Star Wars. Like, you forget how, like, these are all 70s ass looking characters that have survived for a really long time.
Yeah. So I mean, this new one's coming out. It looks baffling. Don Cheadle's in it.
Is Michael Jordan gonna pop up at any point?
He has to.
Yeah.
Of course he will. Unless I hope he's like Adam West mad about it, like how pissed Adam West was when he wasn't in the Batman movie. I hope he goes on a scathing publicity tour just to knock the new Space Jam. They didn't even ask me.
So there we go. Thanks so much for joining us, Chris.
All good.
You said you weren't going to plug anything else, but do feel free if you'd like
Except for Laser Time 30-2010 and Video Game Apocalypse. Upcoming Laser Time episodes include, we're doing one season SNL Wonders is one of our topics. And one I thought was really funny, because I've watched more TV because of the pandemic than I have in like 10 years. We look at the concept of channel drift. Channel drift is the concept of when TVs just completely abandon their theming altogether. Just coursing MTV's history.
Yeah,
MTV and what channels have remained the same and like kept their theming the longest. Even the Weather Channel tried to abandon the weather, and everybody got too mad about it.
I guess that's like History Channel, isn't it? It's now like the aliens and Loch Ness Monster and cryptid hunting channel.
Yes. I spoiler, I literally I watched Planet of the Apes on the History Channel just to see, like, are they going to acknowledge this at all? This is a history.
Wow.
But not our history.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I said up front, I'm a big fan of Chris's work, so do go check that out.
Thanks,
Laser Time is an excellent show, and it's
And if Alan isn't, that means I was insufferable. Apologies, Alan.
What's up, dog? Bugs got more props than a Warner Brothers lot. More money than any rapper's voice. Since day one had his and hers first. Like Trump's wife up to my ears in carrots. Not even the barber can fade the rabbit. See, it's all good, cause Bugs got props. I'm a bunny, right? All we do is hip-hop. Get around, underground. Keep it real. How you like me now? The bunny got flow, for one he got dough. On top of the world, low. So from now until the record stops, what? You guys can bank head bounce or do the bunny hop.